you very much, Julieta. I have the task to wrap up the conference. I'd like to thank all the speakers on behalf of the European Commission for their excellent contributions. I'd like to thank the audience for the patience and for the intelligent and interesting questions we have received. I have learned personally quite a lot in the past 2.5 days. I was a bit skeptical when I heard the title smart specialization. Anything that labels itself smart is a little bit suspicious, as though everybody else is doing something stupid. But I think it is fair to say that smart specialization could be boiled down to being the opposite of stupid diversification. It is about focusing and prioritizing and bundling efforts and making an intelligent input in a given framework. One of the good points I heard, and I heard this systematically across the speakers of the first panels, was that we do not start from scratch. This is not reinventing plan economy. We start with what is there. We are reacting to something that already exists in the real economy. And the main drive remains with entrepreneurs. It is not a state-governed decision to say now we want to be the world's best in sector X or whatever kind of product development you could imagine. One has to analyze the economy, look at the way it is functioning locally, nationally, and take it from there. We're not trying to stipulate a reality which does not exist. This means that the smart specialization, the way it has been presented over the past 2 days, is very much an empirical exercise. And my main conclusion on the deontological side is that it seems to be more an approach, a philosophy, than an actual science. This is behavioral, prescriptional, evidence-based advice coming out of efforts elsewhere. We heard from France examples of the way the French government is working with regions and the way this has entailed a paradigm shift in certain regions that were quite skeptical up front, that were not quite enthusiastic about it, and how it has really changed the mindset both at national and local level to be in such a formal exercise as smart specialization can be. And we heard from Austria, the example of Niederösterreich, this adamant, intelligent, reflected approach at local level, the real wish to be strategic in the choice and support of the use of funding, out of the recognition also that any region needs to cooperate with the state. So from the two countries we heard first the perspective of the state and secondly the perspective of the region, but from both sides we heard that there is a need for cooperation. From other speakers we saw evidence of the international networking and cooperation that is taking place. We heard about the availability of the specialists in Sevilla, the European Union. We've heard of the advice available from the World Bank and also of the advice available through our JASPERS instrument. All this outlining a perspective for Bulgaria to not be alone but to participate in international similar efforts and to open the mindset and open the minds and take inspiration from elsewhere with a view also to be able to contribute with own experience abroad. Now, what do I see as the challenges for Bulgaria based on some years' work with Bulgaria and also from what was said today? First of all, the main challenge here, and Benedict called for a revolution in the public administration. One of the main challenges will be the need to open the minds of the public authorities. We have been struggling with making intelligent grant schemes over the past 4 years, and we have not always been successful. And we have to admit that sometimes the authorities have not totally delivered and have not been as helpful and understanding as they could have been. They have not listened and understood sufficiently well the wishes, the ambitions and the needs of business. That has to change globally, and it has to change specifically when it comes to the ability to do smart specialization. On the other side, what we can wish and hope for is that also business in Bulgaria will continue to confederate itself with a view to speak with a systematic and intelligent voice, with a view to get influence. We have seen tendencies in our various committees for a disparate articulation of needs, random articulation of needs, not always being quite sure what hat people were wearing, when they were not being sure about the representativity of business representatives. So there is work to do on both sides. The government will need to be much more open and service-minded, and the business will need to become serious and understand that there is only a place around the table for people who have a vision and who are not just there to claim their own personal or clan interests. A second challenge for Bulgaria is given in the economy and in the way internally the economy has developed in the country. We have today a huge disparity between a couple of growth poles, Sofia first of all, and the struggle or the challenge, the problem of depopulating certain areas in Bulgaria. Certain regions, certain towns right now are systematically losing out in the country. We have a huge migration going on, we have a huge potential development in the cities, and we have the country in some of the more rural areas. This forces us to be realistic about the spread that we can hope for when we go for a smart specialization. How far can we have an impact on the provinces in Bulgaria? In how far can we get to the identification of a real potential there? And also, secondly, the lack of institutional or institutionalized regions in Bulgaria does not provide us with a lot of platforms or actors in this area. Essentially, between the minister or the ministry and the municipalities, we have very little to deal with. And it would be very difficult at local level to articulate the efforts and to establish the cooperation we need. Can we expect a town like Razgrad to take the initiative to develop a cluster? Is the administrative capacity there? And if it is not a Razgrad, which is it? Can the Razgrad confederate with Rus and so on? Right now, the framework is not there for that, and that will have the possibility to get something going at a local level. This is true for many other areas, but it also applies to this specific area. The third challenge, and again it's a horizontal challenge for Bulgaria, the inability to focus, the inability to set priorities. If as a foreigner I should describe Bulgaria and Bulgarian authorities, I would say that we are facing an entirely risk-averse system. Nobody, never ever, over their dead body is willing to make a decision. Not because they are intelligent or because they don't have a vision, but most of the time because they're never empowered to do so. It is a top-down driven system. All decisions have to go up to the minister or the deputy minister, and below that level, people do not feel obliged, empowered, or otherwise to make any decisions. And this hampers the level to set clear priorities. And being risk-averse, it is much better for people not to have decided anything than to have taken the risk, as Mikhail just said. I mean, what happens if it goes wrong? Well, there are no rewards for things going right in Bulgaria. There are a lot of punishment if they go wrong. And that is an overall attitude that needs to be broken. We simply need much more empowered, self-confident actors throughout the public system that allow themselves and are allowed by their superiors to make decisions. And we also need a government at the highest level that dares say not everything is important. We need long-term planning, we need stability, and also here we can consider that that is a challenge for a country like Bulgaria. I'm just stating the obvious when I say that each time we have a change of minister, deputy minister, in whatever sector, we also have a change, sometimes a minor one, sometimes a big one, of philosophy, and a change of people at the lower level. Now, this happens in many countries, and there is as such nothing wrong with that. But we cannot each and every time, and particularly not in a context where we are frequently changing the political leaders, we cannot afford to reinvent strategies and institutions and to question everything from scratch. This is true for all sectors, and it is particularly true for a weak and underdeveloped sector like this one. We need, in particular in this area, some kind of institution building. We are facing a multifaceted area. We need business, we need education. There's no doubt about that, that there are deep ramifications to the way education is structured, higher education is structured. We need the involvement of the Ministry of Economy, the Ministry of Education, and other ministers. There are infrastructure aspects here as well. We will need a strong cooperation with the Ministry of Regional Development, the Ministry of Transport, if we want to have efficient decisions out there and are developing infrastructure as well. It is not that easy right now to see which specific entity, not even within the Ministry of Economy, can and should and will take the lead on this complicated area. I cannot identify an existing team which has the shoulders to carry such a task. The human resources are simply not there. The will is there, but I cannot identify a team, and this needs to be established. We have structural funds available for that. We can wrap this also up as a project, but we need a political consensus emerging that we need to do a minimum of institution building. The structural funds provide us with a fantastic perspective of financial stability, with a perspective reaching from now up till the year 2022. Where else in the world do you get such a long-term financial perspective for planning with public funds? I don't think many member states can, with their own funding, come up with such a stable system. But for that to work, it takes for the government to come up with a clear vision, a clear strategy. And this will be absolutely exciting for all of us that will be involved to get into the discussion about the implications of smart specialization on the planning. We have heard calls for a specific operation program for education and higher education, science research. Why not? But on the other hand, why that? What is certain is that we need a clear strategy that ring fences our efforts in this area, and we need, as soon as possible, a clear indication of the budget we want to set aside for this. And this takes me to Sofia Tech. Sofia Tech I would describe as one of the 2 or 3 most exciting perspectives we have in the structural fund system or the cohesion policy system in Bulgaria right now. You are starting very late on this, but out of the philosophy that it is never too late. The hectic efforts that are being injected into Sofia Tech right now, whatever happens, however far we get in this period, will not be wasted because they are laying the founding stone for our activities to be expanded in the next period. Why is Sofia Tech so important? Sofia Tech comes out at the same time out of an ambition and a frustration. Faced with some of the deficiencies in terms of the framework we have and the attitude we are meeting in public administration, it was quite clear for some of us, and also for people in the government, that we would need to take something out of the hands of public administration, to create a sort of Garden of Eden where we would attempt not to face the overall problems that we've mentioned. We cannot realistically claim that within the next 2-3 years, all of a sudden we will have reformed all public authorities in Bulgaria, and planning and permitting issues will just be resolved. They will not exist anymore. It takes more time than that. But we could claim that at a project level, a very big project, we will obtain through specific efforts the stability and the flexibility we need in order to create something that is ambitious and has a new quality of governance. We have insisted from our side that what we will build should be beautiful, it should signal prestige, it should signal you are not in a post-communist society, you are in the modern world, you are in the heart of Europe. And our attempt is to compete at world level, not at Balkan level, not at Central European level. I agree, let's not be stupidly over-optimistic, but the level of ambition needs to be world class. And the buildings we will construct will have to show that. They will have to have that signal value, and we should be able to put the necessary funding on the table. We have asked for something that has ambitious design, and on our side we keep calling for the launch of an architectural competition. If you look around, those countries that have managed to put themselves on the map have very often done that through flagship buildings. Do I need to mention Bilbao, that changed status in the world following the construction of Guggenheim? Now everybody knows they would be able to show an icon for Bilbao. Before that was not the case. Why don't we do something similar for Sofia? We have funding now, and until 2022 we have a lot of funding to inject into this if we want to. But buildings and houses are obviously not enough. If we are creating beautiful buildings and put in the old crap, then we have achieved nothing. We will need a new quality of governance. And we are calling for a science park, a technology park that is self-governed and that provides what we have, many of you have been calling for at overall level, that is an equal partnership between business and science and technology. That means that we need all the relevant state players and local players. We need the Ministry of Economy. We will also need the Ministry of Education. We are extremely fortunate to have the President personally involved, and he is a huge asset to this kind of starting up phase and development phase. We will need representation of the city, because the city is one of the main facilitators in this process, and we also need the intellectual ownership of the city of such an important thing that is also shaping partly the city itself. We have been extremely fortunate, and this is the biggest success so far, to be promised the most prestigious and we know financially extremely valuable site for the development of Sofia Tech. This is a very precious gift, and we appreciate that, and it matches the level of ambition and the commitment that we have shown on the European Union side. The two together create a tremendous momentum that needs to be used. But let me also say that should Sofia Tech fail in this period, then we are back to Stone Ages. If we cannot make Sofia Tech working, and we put our entire credibility into this project, then we should have no illusions about what we can do elsewhere and at local level. This is the one shot Bulgaria gets. And the heart of the matter is the question, what kind of country do you want to be? Do you want to be the textile producing backyard of Eastern Europe? Or do you want to be an ITC flagship developer at world level? Do you want to show that you're modern? Or do you want to continue to show that you're struggling to get out of the shadow of communism? It is your choice. The money is there, the beginning of the framework is there, but you will have to take this chance, and if you don't, you will have lost the next 10 years. So the choice is yours. Thank you.